Hello everyone, I'm here and ready to share with you for this session about technology enhanced instruction. My name is Patrick Dowd and this is for activity 2. I've split this into a couple different sections, but let's start with how my questions that I created are ISTE aligned and share with you the questions that I came up with to talk with teachers about their technology integration. The first question is, what are your favorite tech tools and lessons you use for teaching students to create online digital content and or be digital citizens? This really connects with ISTE Standard for Educators number 3. The second question is, what are your favorite digital tools for implementing differentiated instruction? So working with students with special needs, etc. How do you use them? This was really related to ISTE Standard for Educators number 1. And my third question was, how do you use technology in your summative and formative assessments, such as in using an online grading program or Schoology, etc.? Something I currently use myself, and this is really related to ISTE Standard for Educators number 7. My fourth question is, what are your favorite digital tools to support students in your own goal setting and achievement, such as to use tracking apps, lessons with self-directed study and progress, etc.? If you don't use these, would you be interested in learning more about them? And this is for ISTE Standard number 1. Now, I had a pretty varying degree here of success with all these questions. My fifth question was, did you stay involved in learning networks, or do you stay involved in learning networks and or connect with other local educators to collaborate on integrating curricula with tech? And if so, how so? If not, why not? And what I was just about to say is that I had a pretty good success rate with getting teachers to talk about these things. Sometimes they didn't want to talk about the second part of my questions, which are really related to trying to goad them into thinking more deeply, such as, if not, why not, in this last question that I just read. But this is the way it is, and teachers were under time stress, so I did my best to get through the questions and get some responses from them. So what's the big takeaways I got from my teacher interviews on tech this week, and thinking about integration and in terms of and in light of the ISTE standards? Well, I found that each teacher uses technology to differing degrees. So I had everything from a high school teacher who used an iPad, but really as kind of an equivalent of a chalkboard, not really going much into apps and all these sorts of things that are out there, online websites for educators, etc. To the range of a tech person or a makerspace teacher who is a high school history teacher who pretty much used everything out there. I'd learned some things from him that I'd never heard of. The second takeaway here is that they plan technology into their instruction, but this seemed differentiated by grade and subject. So it wasn't that older grades use more tech than lower grades. I didn't find that. Of course, my population was only 3, so it's hard to make any big, broad statements. But what I did find is they all were interested in using more technology, felt like time was kind of a big barrier to them, integrating more. And they really differentiated based on kind of their own personal beliefs about technology and familiarity, really, with it. The question that all of them considered before using technology and integrating it into their planning for lessons was, is this piece of tech useful for my students? Is this a waste of time, or is this something that's going to be useful? It seemed like kind of in analyzing the information, something that they all talked about as being important before they made a decision whether to use technology or not. And finally, all had a larger tech community that they collaborated with or that they wanted to collaborate with. Actually, one of them felt like he had ideas about people he wanted to collaborate with around tech, especially around elementary tech. This is the elementary teacher I talked with, but just really had a hard time finding the time to do that. The other two were part of broader communities, which they connected, one with more of a makerspace and the other with ed tech around math. So what were some of the responses I got? Well, here's all the responses. I thought I'd just float these your way so you can see them, and then you can go back and pause this and have a look if it behooves you. But with only 7 minutes, I thought it'd be better to focus on one question and one responder to give you a sense of kind of the path that I got or some of the responses that I got. So I chose to focus on this one question. What are your favorite tech tools and lessons you use for teaching students to create online digital content or be digital citizens? And there were a number of sites that this teacher, this is the Makerspace high school history teacher, came up with. He likes to use online publishing tools like StoryJumper.com, which I'd never heard of. Safe web searches with Kiddle.com. So going to this website, I guess, allows you to, as he said, kind of have a bit more of a safe web search. You don't get any of those funky areas in the dark web or whatever. And then the third is collage making with bfunky.com, which he was really into kind of the art interface with Makerspace and his history. So this fit with his personality and what he wanted the students to, he wanted the students to use their creativity with tech to produce viable content. And then finally, brainpopjunior.com, which most people are familiar with, is kind of an educational content website. So I thought it'd be good to focus on just one of these and investigate it more for this presentation. So I went and did some research on StoryJumper.com and found out that it's a pretty lively and interesting way for students to craft novels, books, informational booklets, you name it. Anything that could have a narrative behind it, they can turn into something useful. And I thought this was interesting. It seemed to have more of a junior high, elementary bent, but the high school teacher said it was quite useful for students as well, for doing kind of quick brush informational text. So really kind of seemed like a broadly useful website. I did watch the YouTube video link that I have right here. I invite you to go watch that just for the sake of time. We're not going to have time to watch that, but if you watched it, it would tell you the steps to get started with using StoryJumper and learning about the interface. So the other part of this assignment was to analyze one of the lessons. So I got a lesson from the history teacher again, and this one was focused on soccer. As part of a social studies lesson that he was teaching, and trying to get the students thinking about sports from around the world. So it was about 45 minutes long. It covered these Common Core standards, 1.1.1b, etc. The objective was to have students at the end of the lesson be able to explain a sport from their home country. And the technology he used, which is kind of surprising. This is a person who was pretty familiar with technology, but wasn't that technology rich, I didn't find personally. But the lesson plan included the use of YouTube videos on soccer, a digital projector, and a PowerPoint presentation, which connected obviously with a computer. The standards I found it used were ISTE standards for educators, pardon me. Sorry, let me get back to that. ISTE standards for educators. So he was leveraging tech to improve student retention and options student learning. And then for educators, number 5, he was used the tech to design for student variability. So, for instance, he, in the YouTube video, incorporated Chinese subtitles for 2 of his students who were ELLs in the classroom. So, what was good? Well, it seemed to be a pretty standard, good tech-integrated lesson. Not high-tech, I would say, but pretty standard tech. Projector video, PowerPoint seemed to be an effective way to introduce the idea of sports from different countries using technology. The cons, it could have integrated more interactive online content. It didn't seem to have as much of dialogue-inducing content, which we know talk is a good thing when using tech, so you don't get sucked into individual worlds. So I gave this idea for improving it. Maybe you could do for integrated ISTE Standard 3 for learners, a knowledge curator. You can get the students to critically curate a sport from their home country and create an infographic to share with other students about their findings. So I thought that would be a good way to improve and also include a new ISTE standard into that. And it would kind of create a deeper, more contextualized learning opportunity for the students and interactive as well. Well, that's all I have. I hope that's been interesting and useful, and I look forward to doing some more of these. Thanks so much.